Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a special online event today. It's called Activate Your Body's Miraculous Healing Abilities Using the Language of Energy. My name is Stephen Dyna. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm delighted to be with you here, getting to explore the leading edge of really an emergent modality that's having such a powerful impact in so many people's lives. It's working with energy for the purposes of healing, and we're going to explore doing so in the language of energy today, which you'll understand better as we dive a bit deeper. We're going to have this time together with Ellen Meredith, who's become a very popular Shift Network faculty member. She's a DAEEMAP, medical intuitive energy medicine teacher and author, who's really been synthesizing a lot of the best practices out there and helping us distill those into really quick, clear energy practices that can make a powerful impact in our lives. So Ellen, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, let's dive in. And before we do, I want to let people know we're going to have a brand new program to talk about towards the end of the hour with Ellen. For anyone who wants to go deeper, it's called Activate Your Body's Miraculous Ability to Heal and Thrive Using the Language of Subtle Energy. So more to come on that. So Ellen, let's start a little bit with your journey, since I think you had maybe an atypical journey to becoming an energy medicine teacher. And maybe share, first of all, why you got into this field and why you decided to dedicate your life to really exploring the frontiers of it.
Okay, well, my journey started some 45 plus years ago when I got into contact with my inner teachers, and it was very unexpected. They kind of showed up for me. And I'm not sure at that point I even believed in anything such as inner teachers. I call them my counsels. But I found what they said to be so evocative and um, interesting, and it shifted my perspective on my experiences. So I ended up in daily dialogue with them. And I didn't set out to be a healer originally, but I believe they kind of led me into it by a series of rather strange events and coincidences. And I remember in my early 20s, they came into my consciousness one day and they said, "You're going to be moving to California. You're going to get very sick. And in the process of healing, you're going to become a healer." And I hadn't thought of that at all. So what I heard in that whole sentence was, "You're going to move to California," which I thought was great. But then they said, "We're going to give you 3 healing tools to start with." So I'm taking dictation and I wrote down a sheaf of wheat, a rock, and a pair of scissors. And I thought, oh my God, this is so ridiculous. It's like a fairy tale or something. And I sort of put it aside and thought, well, random message, right? But a couple hours later, a woman that I barely knew showed up at my door and she said, "Are you a healer? Because I really need some healing right now." And I started to say, "No, I'm not." And then I remembered, oh, wait, I have 3 tools. So I said, "Well, come on in. We'll see what we can do. I've got some tools." And I sat her down and asked her what was going on and played with the tools. We experimented together with what could we do with these 3. They were imaginary. It wasn't a real rock or a real sheaf of wheat. But about half an hour, 45 minutes later, the 2 of us working together, she said, that did it. I feel all better. Thank you." And she got up and walked out. We never talked about it. I did ask her a week later how she was feeling. She said, fine. And it was just one of the many weirdo things that happened along the way to opening up and learning to use my abilities to work with energies or to perceive energies. And I believe that we all have these abilities. I don't believe that I'm that special, other than I've been trained and I really learned it. I did end up moving to California, by the way, and I did end up getting quite ill. And in the process of working with a complementary practitioner, I discovered that I could perceive energies. I could see what was going on in my body. I could see how supplements would help. After I healed, she invited me to come in and work as a medical intuitive in her office. And within a year, I had so many clients, I kind of had to choose between my day job and doing the healing work. And it pulled me in because it was so moving to see what people wanted. It wasn't just about getting rid of their symptoms, or it wasn't just about, fixing this problem. It really was about deepening into living better and having a better instrument to play the music of their soul. And so I was hooked. I loved it. And I had a full practice for about 23 years. And then I met Donna Eden and discovered her work, and I just love her work. So I studied with her and joined her faculty for another 15 or more years, and then ended up here at Shift. And I feel that the value of the kind of unusual training I had that was really experiential is that when you learn moment by moment, you have a chance to integrate it into the other stuff you know. I had to figure out, how does energy work? I had to figure out, how can I speak the language of energy more fluently, but how can I help my clients connect in with their body, mind, and spirit and speak the language that those three were speaking. And so that's a lot of what I bring to Shift Network, is just this experience of on-the-job training and a tendency to prefer exploration and play to knowing a lot of facts about stuff. And I do have some facts, because you can't do this work for 45 years and not learn a lot of systems. But I lead with helping people learn to develop their own skill and their own frameworks and their own understandings.
Hmm. Well, it's a fascinating backstory. I love that you just said yes to doing a healing session when you had never really formally been trained, and it ended up working. And so go from there. So let's maybe start with a little bit. I know you said you're not as focused on the sort of necessarily kind of theoretical teachings, more practical, but like maybe help people understand your perspective after 45 years of really like, what is energy medicine and how does it work to then create healing and change in our bodies?
Okay, actually, would it be okay if we jumped in first and did a practice so they could feel what it was like, and then I can come
Sure,
back and answer that question? Um,
absolutely.
because I'd like people to feel in their own bodies, in their own self, what it's like to have a conversation with their body. So I'm going to teach an exercise that I call open sesame. Okay. And I'm going to invite people, just do it with me, feel into it, see what it feels like. And we'll talk about afterwards. We're going to do a couple things with our hands. So if you have arthritis and you can't interlace your fingers, you can take a live leaf from a plant or a tree with permission and use that instead. But if you can, instead of just visualizing, do it along with me. And I'll invite you to, Stephen. And I'm going to stand up to demonstrate it, but you all can sit down. You don't have to stand up to do it. Just listen, tune in, see what your body, mind, and spirit are saying while we do this. Okay, this is called open sesame. Okay, open sesame. We're going to start by just taking our energies out of any kind of reactivity. So it's called porcupine reset, this little piece of it. You're going to come to the top of your head. You're going to grab your energy. You can do it sitting. You're going to breathe in and pull straight up. You're going to breathe out and pull your energies out and down in an arcing motion as you exhale, and tack them to the ground. Then you're going to grab the energy at the other end and you're going to pull it out as you breathe in, out and up, and tack it to the top of your head. It's a little like turning a sock outside in and inside out. Let's do it one more time. Breathe in and pull up. Breathe out and take it down to the ground. Grab the other end, breathe in and pull out. Breathe out and tack it to your head. Now, I'm going to invite you to intertwine all your fingers, and I'm going to have you put them on your heart. Okay, just tune in. If you interlace your fingers, and you're going to hold this for, 2 or 3 deep breaths. And just see what you feel in your body. See what thoughts come into your head and how that makes you feel in spirit. Now, we're going to take our interlaced fingers and put them on the forehead, the front of your face, forehead. Again, 2 or 3 deep breaths while you feel into this hold. Now we're going to take your interlaced fingers, your hands, and put them behind your head, directly behind your eyes, the back of your head. Now, for the next position, you have 2 choices. If you can reach, you're going to interlace your fingers directly behind your belly button on your back. It's an area that we call the Mingmen area from Chinese medicine. But if you can't do that hold, you can do it over your belly button. Okay, so your choice, belly button or your Mingmen area. Of course, when you're doing this on your own, you can always do both. Okay. And then the last position for your interlaced hands is go to your second chakra. It's between your belly button and your pubis, just right in between them. And put your joined hands in that area. Again, feel in what's happening in your body, your mind, and your spirit as you do this. Okay. And the last thing we're going to do is think about something that you would like to dedicate your day to or your this week to, some service, some purpose, some role. And you're going to don the robes of service. And what I mean by don the robes of service is put on whatever uniform or outfit represents for you that role or that service. So I'm going to put on my robes, and I like to use gesture. I like to actually enact it because it helps me to really feel the energetic shift that comes from doing that. But feel yourself now in your uniform, your robes of service.
I love how you have such creative and interesting approaches to energy medicine. So let's talk that through a little bit. So why, if you're doing these holds in different places, what's the logic behind the different holds and why interlace the fingers above?
Why, that's an excellent question. I was just going to dive into that. But before I do, can I ask you quickly, did you notice anything as you were doing it that you'd be willing to share with?
Yeah, well, I noticed, I think that when I'm talking a lot or doing the computer, my attention kind of gets more focalized in my head and kind of eyes. And I just noticed that by sort of like creating this circular pattern that was sort of like filling out the awareness of a full energy field and also my back. And so I felt bigger and more filled in. And so by the time of putting on the robe, or in my case, it was sort of a robe, that it was like, oh, it's like I was feeling like I was filling up my body, mind more than I was before.
Lovely. Well, you said it beautifully. I mean, it's an exercise that overall will calm reactivity, ground and center you, and focus your intention. But as you say, how it affects each of us might be a little different on different days because we're having an energy dialogue with different parts. And I do want to kind of go through what we did and talk about, well, what were those little conversations we just had? Each part of that exercise is a small energy dialogue with the energies we're made of. And when I say that, most of you know this. Feels very solid, but we're made of energy. We're also fueled by energy. This whole thing is run by energy, and it communicates. The body, mind, and spirit communicate using energy. So you had asked earlier, what's this language of energy stuff and what's energy medicine? Well, the language of energy is what your mind, body, and spirit use in order to coordinate and communicate and to create to create a self. And energy medicine is activities we use to allow us to influence our energies, to participate in the creation of ourself energetically. And there's other definitions, but those I think are good ones. So we started, let me just go through what we did. Remember, we started with the porcupine reset. Whenever we interact with the world around us, we tend to get triggered a little bit. Sometimes it's positive triggers, sometimes it's negative triggers, but our energies prepare to deal with other people. And and what happens in that case, especially if it's a negative trigger, you and I were having a friendly conversation, so it probably wasn't, but some of the folks out there may have just, come from doing their taxes or something and have a little more reactivity up. When we do the porcupine reset, we're resetting the energies that go out to protect the shields, because that's what they do. They go to protect the shields. When we're not protecting our shields, they come in to feed the work of the body. And of course, it's ideal to have your energies feeding the work of the body most of the time. So doing that reset shifts the flow of the energies from going outward to coming inward. Okay, and I call it porcupine reset because you look like a porcupine when your energies are all going outward. We interlaced our fingers. Throughout the body, there are energy streams. They're called meridians in Chinese medicine, and they serve different functions or purposes in the body. And many of them flow through the fingers. So when you inter, interlace your fingers like this, you're integrating energy flows, and you're integrating some of the processes that feed your organs, that run the ship here. And you're activating a system that Donna Eden has called the Celtic weave. It's a system that actually weaves different functions together. So think about moments whenever you need to feel more integrated. Doing this immediately starts to communicate with the body. Let's have some integration here. I use it at the grocery store when I'm starting to feel sort of spin out with all the food choices and I get a little discombobulated. I'll just do this quietly on my shopping cart for a minute or two, and it pulls everything back into an integrated whole. So it can be very pragmatic. We went to a bunch of different places on the body. We started at the heart. Now, all over the body, there are what I call entry points or doorways. They're places where you can have a really good conversation with some part of your being. You can pursue certain themes better by going through a doorway that really accommodates that theme and where you know who you're talking to. Now, it's possible to talk to your heart by holding your toe. It really is, because the body's all connected. But sometimes you get a better conversation with your heart when you hold your heart. So that's where we started. And the heart is obviously about feelings. I mean, in our culture, that's what we associate the heart with. So you're talking to the part of you that has feelings. But you're also bringing integration to the electrical activity of the body. The heart has, according to HeartMath, 27 times more electricity or more electrical charge than even the brain. It's a very highly charged area of the body. So when we bring this message of integration to the electrical center of the body, you're calming your nervous system and you're calming the all the little signaling in your spine and in your brain that is electrical in nature. When we go to the forehead, of course, we're talking to the left and right brains and inviting them to integrate. We're also bringing blood back. There's some emotion points here. So we're bringing the blood back so that we can think clearly. And we're calming and integrating our emotional self. There's lots of doorways everywhere, right? We're also at the third eye, which is a lot about vision. And because it's the baby fingers that are over the third eye when we do that hold, we're bringing heart energy, which happens to run through the baby finger, and discernment energy, which happens to run through that place, to our brain. And so we're integrating heart, head, and spirit discernment. Okay, the back of the head, there's some fear points there. So we're calming fear. We're supporting the water element in the body that governs the flow and the flow of spinal fluid to the brain. Some of this stuff, I've learned over the years through exploration, and some of it is just is just logical or intuitive sense, right? But again, you're integrating your left and right brain. When we went to the Ming Men, or the belly button, behind the belly button or at the belly button, we're looking at two very important places. The Ming Men is a passage that leads into the depths. It connects to what's called a radiant circuit, or a flow that takes you very, very deeply into yourself. So I think of it as accessing your soul juice, that when we do the Ming Men, you're accessing soul juice and sourcing and reminding yourself of where you come from in a deep spiritual sense. When you're on your belly button, think about that. That's the umbilicus. That's what connects you to mom when you're in the womb, right? So we get all our nourishment through that area. So when we hold there, we're bringing integration and activation of a conversation about nourishment and what will nourish us. And it also speaks very strongly to the vagus nerve. I know there's a lot of people very interested in what does the vagus nerve do, and it runs through the body. So you can go there to have that conversation. And then the second chakra is often about the authentic self or self-expression. So, and of course, you're over your gut when you hold it. So it kind of governs digestion. And so there's lots of conversations you can have with your body, and they can take different meaning at different times. You're not just pushing buttons like fix this by holding here and fix this by pushing there. It's like show up in this place with some kind of messaging that sets a conversation going. But there's two other aspects. One is we have to ask, what am I saying? Okay, it's not automatic. If I do this, I'm not automatically saying, okay, go ahead and be integrated and it's perfect. This tends to bring in integration because it tends to carry that messaging. But the role of intention is super important in any healing. And think about it. If I put my hands on my face, if my intention is consolation, I feel very consoled. But if you're a parent and you go to your child and you put your hands on their face, you may be saying, focus, look at me, pay attention. You've seen parents do that. Or someone who, grandma comes in and goes, "Aw, sweetie pie, you're so sweet." It's a message of acceptance. Or you can say, you can go up to someone who you want to threaten and say, "Okay, get out of my face." You can grab their face and again bring attention. So if we think about what we want to say, then we can use the vocabulary from the language of energy to say it. But it is a language that, like any other, that has intention, that has meaning and communication. And then on that theme of intention, the last thing we did when we donned the robes of service, we invoked an energy that we know holistically or in a whole way. I called in my messenger energy and put on my messenger outfit. And I know that as a whole thing. I didn't have to bring in the 25 different parts of that. I used a metaphor of donning the robes of service to speak to my whole body using that. And that's one thing that does is that it brings spirit into the conversation, because my teachers always said that the closest we can come to the language of spirit is using metaphor. That's where we can most connect up and understand. And so when you bring metaphor in, when you bring in imagery and a holistic kind of invitation, you're activating the spiritual part of you to be part of the dialogue.
Well, what a remarkable overview of that whole practice. I mean, as you said, there's so many layers of depth in what you're sharing. And so a couple things kind of jump out at me is that, like, we so often think of a language in terms of words, but it's these specific gestures is sort of like your energy body responds more to the movement, to the intertwining of things, to the specificity of like how there's a touch that's going on that sounds like it's much more meaningful than just invoking it with as an idea or a thought or a concept.
Right. I believe that as kids, we start with this language. It is our original language. And then we learn to translate all of our experience into spoken language, into words, into dialogue that's using verbal language. And we lose some of the richness of all the other things we can do, gesture and movement and color and image and all the ways we understand life can be part of that language. And if you ever see American Sign Language or some other sign language, it's got a lot of wealth that we lose when everything gets flattened into sentences that could be typed.
Hmm.
And I mean, we do still use intonation, but we lose a lot. So yeah, I think it's a very rich language, and that's what we're going to be learning in the class. And I want to give a little overview of some ways that we can see the body, mind, and spirit communication that help us learn it. Because it's a little different, I think, from how people think of energy. For example, um, I remember learning about energy in elementary school, electricity. As I got older, I realized that our society talks about energy in very cut and dried way. I mean, there's waves and there's points and they're not they don't have consciousness. But subtle energy does have consciousness. It has intelligence, and maybe it even is our consciousness expressing itself. It's not an inert thing that can be measured and shifted and manipulated that way. Um, and that's true of language too. It's a very living thing. So if we want to learn the language, we need to get past the notion that I can just manipulate my energies and get good health. It's not that. It's not about moving energies around and getting the correct wave happening in our brain or the correct, um, even the correct chemistry going in our body. It is about getting the expression of mind, body, and spirit to line up and really work together as a team. Um, so there's two mindsets that I like to talk about that really help us learn the language of energy or relearn it actually because we knew it. One is to change the model of how we dialogue with the body because in our culture we always ask what's wrong and how can I fix it. Like if you go to the doctor, it's to get what's wrong diagnosed, and then you ask for a medicine to fix it. And we do that throughout our culture. And I think it really flattens us into very linear understandings. So instead, you can ask things like, what's going on? How can I participate? What can I learn from you right now? Do you understand these kinds of questions take us into a very different mindset that does get the body talking in a very different way and starts to move and shift your symptoms even with that much. I mean, I've had people heal long-term chronic symptoms only by showing up and saying, what's going on? What can I do for you? How can I help? And just even that bit of showing up released the body to stop screaming and said, "Ha, you finally showed up. Now we can communicate."
It sounds
So,
like there's a shift in the languaging there from like a problem orientation or that seeing something as like undesirable in some way to the curiosity of like, oh, it's more of a discovery model. It has a message or a meaning that may be very positive and even transformational.
yeah. And I think that discovery and play and exploration are really at the roots of energy intelligence, of really being able to figure something out and not always have to go to someone who's got the right answers, especially when the right answers often aren't our right answers. They're right for someone else, but they're not necessarily right for you in that moment. Um, Another shift that I think is really helpful is to get in the habit of shifting from thinking about chemistry. Like, say I get a headache, I think about, oh, what can I take? Maybe I'll take an Advil, or maybe I'll, change my diet. I think in terms of chemistry, because that's the programming from our culture. But what we want to do is say, well, what's my energy doing? What is my energy needing? And when we start to shift on a regular basis from asking what's going on energetically, all of a sudden we have a lot more ways to participate. First of all, it's a way lot cheaper to figure out what I can do energetically than it is to order a whole bunch of supplements. But second of all, chemistry follows your energy communications. So if we can really learn this language and participate, our chemistry will be much more cooperative with us, and we can change things that even people say can't be healed. They can be healed. It's just that we never speak in the right language. Well, not never. We frequently don't speak the language and have the conversation that the body or the mind or the spirit needs to have to evolve out of that stuck situation or that problematic situation.
Hmm. So is speaking the language of energy the same as speaking the language of chemistry, or do you have to kind of even downshift further?
They're not. I mean, I'm not much of a chemist. Over the years, I've learned about supplements and things. The language of energy is very intuitive. Most of us speak a lot of it already. And when I teach it, I don't teach it as if nobody knows anything. I teach it as a process of remembering what it is we already know how to do. I mean, a lot of us know how to console ourselves already using gesture. And it's a matter of finding what those things are. It's not, it's chemistry is very foreign and it's very impersonal and it's very generic. It's this notion that if you put this together and this together, you'll always get this reaction. But you and I both know from, and everybody out there knows from speaking language, you can say the same 7 words and they're going to mean different things to different people, or they're going to mean different things in different contexts. So that skill we bring from speaking energy, speaking a language and then speaking energy as a language, it activates a lot we already know, but it's not that learned system of chemistry or physics that we get from school. And your
Hmm.
body speaks in symptoms and sensations and events and symbolic expressions, and it uses everything: sound, rhythm, vibration, light, imagery, thoughts, feelings, smell, taste, etc. So um, we have the tools to learn it and to create our own energy medicine to shift our health, to shift how our day is going, to shift how our energy is behaving, how our mind is behaving, etc.
So I'd love you to share a little bit more about, so you've really given us a sense of the vocabulary, the ways, but like how might, if you've got a certain set of symptoms, let's say you're having some pain in your belly, so how might you apply these principles to investigating what's going on and working with it in a way that's shifting things in a positive direction?
Well, you can actually take what I already taught, take the interspersed fingers, or you might experiment with another gesture. You might take your fist and see what happens. Like, just imagine you've got a stomach ache. I don't know if you can see me, I'll stand up. So you can take your fist and put it over the belly and see what happens. What do you feel like when you do that? Then try opening it up. Then try putting the back of your hand there. And then see what happens if you put your fingertips there. What happens if you tap? What happens if you take something that is a beautiful color? I'm going to just grab a blue pen and you put that in the area. As you experiment, what happens when you begin to find how that situation is trying to communicate with you? And eventually you'll figure out what it's communicating as well. But rather than saying, I've got to get rid of you, you assume that it's saying something to you and you explore what it's trying to express.
I loved how you kind of weave in the different demonstrations, and I believe you had another demonstration you were wanting to offer us as well, so we can really come away from today with some good tools.
Right. So say that you want to figure out where you want to have one of these conversations. And you want to maybe find a tool or a gift that will help you heal something or find greater fulfillment. So think for a moment of some situation you'd like a little more insight into, a tool or a gift to help you heal it. So what we're going to do is, in the airport, how they have those sniffer dogs, and they send them to smell the bags and find the contraband. They're looking for drugs and stuff, or they train sniffer dogs to find cancer. I think we can find our sniffer dog, teach our sniffer dogs to find gifts as well. So that's what you're going to do. We're going to invite you to call up. It could be a sniffer dog, it could be another kind of animal, but call up your own personal sniffer dog and ask it to go somewhere in your body or in your energy field, your mind, or even your life, and show you where you can best have a conversation that's going to give you insight into the situation you thought about. Okay, so just send that sniffer dog. And what I want to say is, don't let the mind get all fancy about, no, it should be this and this. Just see what pops into your brain. It can be really silly. Now, when your sniffer dog gets to where it wants to bring your attention, you can ask it to point out or show you, where's the good stuff, where's the tool, where's something that will give me insight or understanding or help me. Again, I invite people not to second guess this. Just do it and see what comes. It doesn't have to be heavy duty. My sniffer dog found.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, my sniffer dog was a beagle. I tend to like beagles, and it went right to my belly, and it likes to go to my belly. And then it rolled over and showed me its belly, like, hey, I want you to pet my belly. And I thought, well, maybe this is my gift, is petting my dog's belly, taking the time. And then the dog sort of rolled its eyes and looked over, and I noticed she was in a whole bed of three-leaf clovers. It's beautiful green, and I just thought, oh, maybe I'm supposed to look for the four-leaf clover. And the dog rolled its eyes again. I thought, or maybe I'm supposed to appreciate this bed of three-leaf clovers, that I don't need to be looking for that four-leaf clover because a bed of clover is already pretty nice. And it's a message of kind of stopping to enjoy where I am and feel like the value that comes from where I am doesn't have to be augmented by finding some special luck with a four-leaf clover.
What a great vision and interesting interpretation as well. So very cool. So it sounds like that, if we're using our embodied practices and demonstrations of interlocking fingers as one key part of the vocabulary, it seems like just working with imagery and evoking that imagery is another key part of the language skill development here.
Absolutely. And it's not unlike learning English or any language. It's more beautifully expressed if we can work with imagery and metaphor and experience and asking questions, not always just having cut and dried statements, letting things meander a little bit. And the body loves that, the mind loves it, and the spirit loves it. It's extremely worthwhile to relearn this language and step back into participation with your body, mind, and spirit.
Very cool. Well, Ellen, you're just a fountain of fascinating wisdom in these areas, and I love just the kind of the playfulness and the curiosity with which you engage this investigation of the whole language of energy. So I want to spend some time now talking about your upcoming program, since I know it's going to be so profound for people who are looking for some real tools that can help them shift their energy state. It's a time of a lot of collective distress and noise out there. So it's even more important for us to be able to cultivate that resilience and compassion and energy flow within. So we're really grateful you're offering this brand new program. So the course is called Activate Your Body's Miraculous Ability to Heal and Thrive Using the Language of Subtle Energy. You can find it laid out in detail at Energy Medicine for Change, FOR Change, EnergyMedicineForChange.com. It's going to be a 7-week program, and it's really just an opportunity for you to dive in and harvest 45 years of exploration and study that Ellen has done about what really works, and then to discover your own energy language and your own system of working with your body, mind, and spirit in a way that really creates positive change. So, Ellen, I'd love for you to share in your own words, so really about, why should people take this journey with you? What's the value? And then I'll read out the module titles so you can give us a preview of what's coming.
Okay. Well, I think the value is that we get to work on our health and well-being from the inside out. We have tools that don't cost a lot, we don't have to buy pills or anything, that allow us to learn how to participate in our own health, our own well-being, our own quality of life. So I think that's the benefit. You're going to learn how to speak energy. You're going to learn how to use what I call energy dialogue. And you'll learn lots of energy medicine exercises that bring it all together for deeper healing and greater well-being.
So module 1 is called Dive into the Language of Energy to Activate Your Healing.
Right. So there you're going to explore how to dialogue with the full spectrum of your being, not just your physical body. You'll learn a lot about how pain and symptoms communicate. You're going to also learn some energy exercises that allow you to tune in, shift, and enhance your energy, including some work to rewire your nervous system.
Module 2, Sensing Subtle Energies to Learn What Your Body is Trying to Tell You.
Well, we're going to learn how to use everyday perceptions and your inner senses to read the energies of your body, mind, and spirit. You don't have to be psychic to take this course. And we'll look at how can you train your mind to learn from your body and spirit.
Module 3, Speaking Energy to Create New Meaning in Your Life.
So we'll learn some new basic building blocks of how to speak energy, and we're going to play with touch and gesture and imagery and light and color to help you find new ways to communicate with your body, mind, and spirit.
Module 4, Harnessing the Power of Energy Patterns to Improve Your Health.
Okay, well, energy does move in patterns. So we're going to be looking at some of the baseline patterns that it uses that will affect your well-being. And we're going to especially explore sound and rhythm and how they can activate your core and support your energies to move the way they're designed to move.
Module 5, Using Context and Instinct to Deepen Your Energy Communications.
Okay, so we'll explore the influence that environment and your animal nature have on your subtle energies and on your health. And we're going to focus in particularly on how you can influence your hormones, which are the body's messengers, after all.
Module 6, Partnering with Your Gatekeeper to Clear Habits.
Okay, well, your gatekeeper is your physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic immune system. So you're going to learn how your gatekeeper supports you in creating yourself. And I always say the self in self healing is very important. So we're going to be exploring ways to kind of refine the self and to release habits and stored experiences that are going to take you where you don't want to go.
Module 7, Discovering the Energetic Truths of Your Nature to Bring Spirit into Each Moment.
Well, we're going to look at how can you know yourself more fully and deeply based on the deeper truths of your nature. And how can elements such as fire, air, water, metal, wood, um, earth, how can they be used or harnessed for greater health? And how can you work with cycles as well to support healing, balance, and well-being?
Sounds like you can get some foundations of Chinese medicine in there as well.
I'll stick a little in.
That's helpful because I know you really draw from a lot of different global wisdom traditions. There's more detail on these modules at Energy Medicine for Change, FOR change.com. As Ellen has just shared, there's 7 modules that are live. You get 90 minutes in each session with her teaching interactive exercises. You can ask questions. You also get video and audio recordings from every session, which allows you to go back and do practices again and again. You'll get word for word transcripts as well, which can be a great way to scan back for specific instructions, and you can study and highlight those for some time to come. There's a small group time to connect with other participants, as well as weekly exercises and practices, as well as a Facebook community to deepen your experience. On the page, you'll also see there's a number of extra bonuses that enhance the value of your journey. There's a dialogue with Ellen and Lauren Walker, another Shift faculty, called Understanding Your Body's Wisdom, a great collaboration between 2 groundbreaking faculty. There's a PDF guide from Ellen called Diving into Your Energy Language. We've done some of that today, but share a little bit more about that PDF guide, Ellen.
Okay, well, that is actually a couple of chapters from my book, The Language Your Body Speaks. And I believe I've even got a forward from Donna Eden in there, just to give you a flavor of more specifically what what there is to know about the language of energy.
There's also another PDF guide bonus called Living from the Inside Out. And there's a special bonus that's available when you sign up by midnight tonight. This is a way to encourage you to make a decision now while you have the most information. This is a video dialogue between Ellen and Sheriana Boyle. It's called Balancing Emotions to Support Your Immune System. Balancing Emotions to Support Your Immune System. Want to share a little bit more about that special bonus folks get when they sign up today?
Sure. Sherianna Boyle writes about emotional detox, the notion of that clearing emotions helps you heal. And so we had a lovely discussion about the energetic side of clearing emotions, how you can um, work with your emotions energetically and clear habits so that your immune system could work more effectively. So that's essentially where we went. It's a very evocative conversation. I think people will enjoy it.
Hmm. Sounds like there's some similar principles with working with energy, and then you talked a little bit about working with chemistry and emotion. So you kind of translate a little bit between the levels there, it sounds like.
Right, and it just dives a little more deeply into those topics with more focus and specificity.
Great. Well, it's going to be a groundbreaking and really super helpful practical program. You can see all the details again at Energy Medicine for Change. We've kept the investment really accessible. It's just 3 payments of $109. You save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $297. The course is going to begin on September 28th, run Wednesdays at 9 Pacific, noon Eastern. But even if you can't make those live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. And really, it's ultimately about the practices and making them a part of your life, which you have the resources to do so for years to come. So I also encourage you to go to the page at energymedicineforchange.com, energymedicineforchange.com, and read through some of the rave reviews from previous students of what about a brilliant teacher and so glad they took the course, and humor and playfulness, and really the practical insights instilled confidence. There's a lot of great testimonials from people who have benefited from Ellen's work, both through the Shift Network and some from beyond as well. So you're going to be in good hands, and you're going to get to harvest 45 years of wisdom and practice and distill that for your own life. And you can do so at energymedicineforchange.com. So Ellen, we're at the end of our time together today. It's gone quickly and you've shared a lot, but let's a few more minutes for anything you want to share with folks who are considering going further with you in this journey into the language of energy.
Well, I hope people will join me to take this journey. I truly believe that at this time in particular, when we're being asked to deal with change, we're being asked to really be more flexible and shift our understandings and possibly save the planet. We need to be able to come back to ourselves as creatures, as energetic beings, and work with ourselves more directly. And I think that learning the language of energy does that. It's the original language. It's our mother tongue. So I really hope people will join me in rediscovering this amazing communication pattern that your body, mind, and spirit have as they create your experience of being alive.
Beautiful. Well, Ellen, you're super inspiring, and really love the practical benefits of your work. So thank you for offering us some great insights and practices today. And thank you for offering this brand new program. Again, it's called Activate Your Body's Miraculous Ability to Heal and Thrive Using the Language of Subtle Energy. And you can find it at Energy Medicine for Change, FOR change.com. And you're going to get that special extra bonus when you sign up by midnight tonight, which is Balancing Emotions to Support Your Immune System. That's with Ellen and Sheriana Boyle. So thank you so much, Ellen, and thank you all for joining. Many blessings.
Thank you. Many blessings.